Good morning, and thank you for joining me this morning. I'm Teresa Shaw, and thank you for joining me for devotions. This week, we are honoring Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his work for racial equality, justice, and peace. But we don't want to forget that Dr. King was a Christian minister and that the roots of his work and thought are the teachings of Jesus. And you have to know that that was his foundation and his purpose for the work that he did. Um, let's talk a little bit about his love for his enemies. And was, if you think about it, God was an extremist for love, and so was Dr. Martin Luther King. He always said, "Love your enemies, bless them that curse you, pray for them that despitefully use you," and was not aimless and extremist for justice. Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Was not Paul an extremist for the gospel of Jesus Christ? And I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. Was not Martin Luther King an extremist? And, when we look at this, we know once again how important it is to love each other. We are here, and Dr. Martin Luther King talked about um, that he was only here advocating justice, not violence, and that we have overcome that. What we want is equality for all people, and he knew that the work was going to be grim. He knew all that he had to do, and he knew that he wasn't wrong. He knew that he was doing what God had asked him to do. And he says he had a speech that he did at a high school in Philadelphia, and he talked about when you discover what you'll be in your life, set out set out to do it as if God has asked you, Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. And don't just set out to do a good job. Set out to do just a good job that the living, the dead, or the unborn couldn't do it any better. He always talked about everyone was important. All of the different jobs were important. If you were going to be sweeping, the streets, be a good sweeper. Do the best that you could. Just don't sweep any kind of way. So he was always about that. And he talked about if you were going to be a pine at the top of the hill, be a shrub in the valley, and be the best little shrub on the side of the hill. So he talked about being your best also. And it said, be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. And if you can't be a sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best at whatever you are. We're made for God, and he always talked about that. And we will be restless until we find rest in him. And he said to them that morning that this is the personal faith that has kept him going, and that he was not worried about the future because he knew even on this race question he wasn't worried because he knew that God would be with him always until death and beyond. And he said because the God that I worship is a God that has a way of saying, even to kings and even to governors, be still and know that I am God. And God has not yet turned over the universe. Somewhere I read, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And I'm going on because I have faith in God. And I don't know what the future is going to hold, but I do know who holds the future. And if He'll guide us and hold our hand, we'll go on. So Dr. Martin Luther King, again, as he was seen in so many different ways, he had a foundation of Christian um, life, and he was a pastor, and he knew God, he loved God, and he loved people. And so as we remember him today, let's go back and remember love and that we need to love each other. Even though we may not agree with each other, we should love each and every one as God loves us. I'm Theresa Shaw. Enjoy your day and do some research on Dr. Martin Luther King and see if you can't find some new things about Dr. King that you didn't know. Have a great week.